There's no way. There's no way.
Cameron shakes his head back and forth, unwilling to believe that Dev, his boyfriend, the person he loves most, would do this to him. But why? Devin is the one that wants to leave, that wants to protect him from this nightmarish town. How would this help at all, making all the ghosts up? Devin truly wants to understand what's happening to Lupita.
Lupita. There we go.
I even recognized it too, but I was gonna wait for Hannah to finish.
Lupita!
Which is actually what made me think Mary, because Lupita is a reference to Guadalupe, which is a reference to Mary.
Yeah, I don't know why Hannah and I got the Y name instead for some reason.
I was closer in my opinion.
Yes, you were.
Yay.
Good for you.
I'm proud of myself.
Lupita, I just met a girl named
Okay,
Lupita.
it doesn't sound as romantic, I guess.
Meanwhile, Spielberg is releasing West Side Story in theaters at some point. Yay!
Yay.
They'll probably do extra
Please.
well too, because Sondheim just passed. So it'll be like,
I thought I saw the commercials where it was like, oh, it's out now. Go see it. West Side Story.
Yeah, technically there was already like a movie version of West Side Story.
Yeah, but like I'm talking
That
about
was a very
the
long
new
time ago.
one.
it was filmed in my sister's neighborhood.
Oh yeah, that's right. The same neighborhood
As
that
in the Heights. Yeah. They're filmed in the exact same neighborhood.
Yeah, the new West Side Story is already out.
Cool. There we go. Sorry, Anna, do you want to say your line again?
Okay. Devin truly wants to understand what's happened to Lupita, where she is. Nowhere.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Going back into this though, I'm curious about what was the event when Devin was 12, because I don't think it's Lupita, since she was alive long enough that Cameron recognized her voice in that one vision.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, I guess, he was shown a video of her at some point.
Maybe. I don't know.
Possibly.
We'll find out, man.
Yeah. I'm just curious. I wanted to do a little theory crafting here. Because obviously, there's either just the one event, and this has haunted Devin for the longest time. They even show his boyfriend a picture of this dead girl, or a video of this dead girl, or it's another thing that happened, and Lupita is just another additional issue for Devin. Because we've seen a lot of what's wrong with Cameron's backstory and why he's affected by all this stuff.
But we still don't know really much about Devin.
Maybe Lupita was involved in Echo.
I mean, she would have shown up, I feel like, because honestly...
No, because
Echo-
there was people killed each other in Echo, right?
Yes, but I will point out, like, Echo had a cast, well, or not cast, but the amount of people within Echo itself would have been 60 or less. And even then, Devin's not really here for Lupita herself. He's here because he thinks that there might be a sign of the supernatural here.
Yeah.
So it would help with pointing out what's going on with Lupita herself and the other side, since she's definitely dead.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm curious if like if her death is what happened when he was 12, or if it's another thing on top of that. Because now that I'm like thinking about this more and more, I'm realizing we are not told what's going on with Devin's backstory. We're always given hints, but never actually outright told.
No.
Yep.
I feel that's something that's probably going to
We're just about to get that, because Devin is going crazy right now. Well, no, Cam is actually going crazy, but because of that, Devin is feeling responsible.
And so he's emotionally cracking.
Because like with Cameron, we've been told plenty of things. Everything with his mother, the fact that his friend died dealing drugs, the fact he was in an abusive relationship, even things he's not told Devin. We're learning all these things throughout like his own monologue. So he's willing to like go in depth on what's going on with himself. But I feel like Devin might even just be a little bit closed off about these things, because I
Even
almost feel like the narrator is a little bit like, this is their personal thoughts at that moment, and then Devin will have like, yes, Lupita, now we're moving on. I'm not going to open that little door right now.
So he'd want Cameron's visions to be true. Unless it's both. He couldn't have been involved in the vision he had by the lake, right? Or what he heard in the forest. Those were real. Cameron feels it deep down that they had to have been real. He couldn't have made up that recounting of the forest creature, or of the girl being murdered. Maybe Devin was worried that Cameron would give up if he didn't see anything, and wanted to make sure by hanging himself in the closet, by creating one of the worst moments in Cameron's life. Devin would never do that, would never think to do that. As he's thinking this, something flickers in Cameron's vision. It's hard to describe, but there's a vividness to what he's seeing. And then the lighting begins to change, like it did next to the lake. The coyote stops, rigid and apprehensive, not really interested in having visions at the moment. He doesn't have a say in the matter, though. This time, the lighting takes on such a surreal, ominous, blood-red glow that even though Cameron thought he was prepared, he definitely isn't. He stands in the unnatural light, feeling a bit sick, but then realizes he's actually someone else, just like when he saw the girl's life end. But
No.
he seems to snap into his host, and he looks down at the body of a creature he can't quite make out. The person he's become breathes heavily, doubled over, his giant paws on his knees, feeling sick. He'd never killed someone before. This little deserved it, at least. He spits on the body, then suddenly realizes he needs to get rid of it. As far as he knows, no one knows that he's here, all the way from Peyton. And if he can get rid of the body, no one will ever know he did it. He prepares himself, finding it easier and easier to come to terms with the murder. The thrill he got from it, the swooping feeling in his chest that immediately made his squeak get squeak. It's a bit worrying, even to him. With a deep breath, he leans down, but then suddenly feels like he's being watched. Slowly, he looks up. It hovers over the world, watching him. He'd seen a handful of UFOs, all of them while he was an Echo. He'd come to realize that it wasn't aliens, or whatever the people believed in. It was supernatural or something, like a ghost. He suddenly thinks back to last week when that space shuttle blew up while his class watched it on TV. He'd been the only one to laugh when it happened. Not really because it was funny, but because it was so unexpected and so boring up until that point. To him, that's the only way space could be haunted with ghosts. But for some reason, he doesn't think anything living, or at least anything that was living, is involved with this. What he realized is that those crafts, made of metal, glass, and covered in lights, are empty. As far as he's concerned, they're no different from the ghosts. Ghosts that weren't people at all. They're hollow shells, only there to feed on the sick feeling he got when seeing them. Only there to watch him so that the small amount of guilt he had might grow just a little bit bigger. And tonight, aliens would visit him, to torture him, to violate him. Not really aliens, but the same thing as the ghosts that people see in this town. It's all the same. So he ignores it as he gets to work, and it hovers over his head, even as he feels its red eyes on the back of its neck. Cameron isn't sure what to think right now.
So I'll let you know that's actually something from Echo. like the original story back in 2015.
I was wondering if is it the character I'm thinking of?
Mm-hmm.
A UFO?
What?
While the shadow creature in the forest had been strange, he hadn't seen it. He'd only heard someone recounting it. Cameron assumed that the man in his vision wasn't in his right mind, maybe misinterpreted what he was experiencing. But this? A full-blown craft in the sky above a dead body. Now Cameron is almost positive he's been toyed with, like Raincoat Monster in the motel room. It just makes him feel like he's going crazy, and it reminds him that, for some inexplicable reason, he thought Dev might be in on it. How did he even consider that Dev could be involved in this? Besides, even now, despite it being almost completely silent aside from the crunch of his footsteps on the gravel road, the voices are insistent, even louder. And how would he hide speakers out here in the middle of nowhere? Now that he's focusing on those voices, he can actually start making out some words, sentence fragments. Singing, they sang, sins of cities are always. You piece of shit, stop doing. Every time he catches a new voice, it fades away before it finishes what it's saying. Cameron stops so he can hear better, ears up. But the voices fade back to barely noticeable whispers on the wind. Cameron remembers those ghost hunting shows he'd watched a few times, the way they're always trying to communicate.
You know, by calling the ghost a bitch.
Yeah, I watched ghost hunting shows, but the main reason I did was to learn a little bit about the dark history of the place they were going to.
Ah.
I like history like that.
Okay. That's interesting.
I mainly watched ghost hunting shows because it was something that me and my dad would just bond over while we were eating dinner in high school.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. And, the show that we watched, I think it was called Ghost Hunters. It's the one with, like, TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, if I remember correctly.
That went through many changes ever since one of the original creators, I think, left the show.
Yeah, I think the two main guys were Grant and Jason. I think it's Grant that left.
I think so.
Yeah, I stopped watching, like, after I got out of high school, so I didn't get to see that, but...
I watched a little bit of that. I thought it was interesting.
Very, very similar to the ghost hunting thing that you bonded with your dad over. My dad and I watched the Bigfoot hunting one.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
I've seen an episode or two of that.
It was great. It was just so stupid. They go out in the middle of the forest and they just start calling and they're like, I hear something back. What could it be?
Yeah.
Usually an old man.
My dad just bonded over Western films.
It's me, Old Man Jenkins.
Oh, man. So he clears his throat awkwardly.
Hello? Are you trying to talk to me? Do you have something you'd like to say?
Cameron isn't even sure he should be saying you because the voices are such a mixture of many.
You plural.
But why would they all congregate on this one dirt road? Either way, they seem to have moved on, so Cameron starts walking again. It's something we should see. You think you're special, stupid shit. Again, Cameron stops, and so do the voices.
Hello?
Silence.
Look, if you want to start a fight, you better fucking come out here and come at me. I'm ready.
The words don't even really make sense. If the ghosts are trying to talk to him, wouldn't they say something useful? Maybe they just don't like him. And if it's a replaying of something in the past, why are they just babbling nonsense? Cameron sighs and takes a step. You stupid. The coyote freezes, suddenly making a connection. He looks down at his foot, then brushes it back and forth over the gravel. Stupid sack of shit. Cameron stares. It's coming from the gravel. From the sounds of it, anyway. A gentle wind tickles over the fur in his ears and whispers continue. Suddenly, he's back in his trailer with his mother. He's laying back on the couch, nodding out after snorting his pills. His mother, on the other side of the trailer, is kneeling amongst the trash. She'd always been meticulously clean, emphasizing that while they might live in a trailer, they can still make it look nice. But over the past year, she'd seemed to care less and less, and now dishes were used and never cleaned, boxes of takeout opened and left where they were eaten. Cameron himself couldn't be bothered to tidy up. It's easier now that his mom doesn't give a fuck. He can do his drugs right in front of her now. The post-it notes and strips of fabric tied to every arch his mother spotted, even to things Cameron is pretty sure aren't arches, make the place look like a disaster anyway. What does bother him, though, as he watches her through half-lidded eyes, is the way she looks. Her fur is disheveled and sticking up in different places, and she's in the same clothes she's been in for a week. She's starting to have a strange odor about her, but Cameron felt too weird telling his own mom that she smelled bad. It's sad. He almost wishes she'd scream at him and slap him like she did whenever she found his drugs. Almost. Because right now he feels so good, and she seems happy enough to listen to that fan. Cameron covers his muzzle, heart pounding, listening to the whispering wind.
No. No.
His eyes blur with tears. He turns around because he's worried someone might be watching him, and his feet scrape the gravel. Sadness seems to always. Cameron covers his ears, feeling the now familiar rising tide of panic in his chest. He's going crazy. Just like his mother, he's losing his mind. But his mother changed over the course of months. This is so sudden. He's never heard voices before. Or has he? The hallucination he'd had of Devon hanging, that was a voice. But that could have been a dream too. Now Cameron's breathing is really starting to get out of control, and he wants to run back to Devon and apologize, just so they can hold each other again. Of course Devon wouldn't fuck with him over this, and Cameron can't understand why he'd thought that. It seemed like a possibility just 5 minutes ago. But something holds him from running back right now, and that's because if he's crazy, he doesn't want Dev to see it. Sure, he'd had a few nervous breakdowns and panic attacks in the first few years of their relationship, but that's normal crazy. This is actually crazy. It's psychotic. And while Dev would hold him, comfort him, take him away from this place, who's to say what would happen after that? Behind his outgoing nature and warm smile, Dev would be doubting their relationship. He already is. He'd be worn down by Cameron's deteriorating mental state, his deteriorating hygiene, the deterioration of the man he once knew as a spiral into his delusions deepens. Stop it.
Stop it. I'm not Mom.
No, but you're her son. That voice, the one that comes from inside his head. The one that doesn't feel like his inner voice. The one that won't shut the fuck up. Cameron is walking back the way he came, back toward Devon, toward what he knows is real and safe. But is he?
Yes.
Even though he's scared, he says it confidently, and strangely enough, he feels what seems like a pause. He feels what seems like a pause on the voice's end. Like it's not quite sure how to respond. Good.
Okay.
Cameron thinks, this time with his own thoughts. He makes sure to walk to the side of the road, the dusty, somewhat rocky surface, preferable to the whispering gravel.